Hi there, and welcome to this video on auto-generating application interfaces, leveraging Excel as a data source. Now, if you're newer to AgilePoint and not yet familiar with that capability, let's give you a brief bit of background. As we all know, Excel is powerful and certainly ubiquitous, but it does come with its own set of drawbacks. So it was important for AgilePoint to introduce support that leveraged Excel as the application data store, rather than totally transform it into an AgilePoint data entity or similar data table. Namely, Excel sheets oftentimes can have very complex calculations, which are not always easily replicated in another system or database. Now beyond that, though an Excel sheet is easy to spin up, it was oftentimes living on an individual user's desktop, which created challenges around the most up-to-date source of truth. And what's more is it offers very limited data validation options. So it was very easy to introduce incomplete or incorrect data. So to that end, AgilePoint introduced Excel as a data source, where a sheet would be centrally hosted in a repository like a file share, Box, or SharePoint, and the AgilePoint application would read and write from that sheet. Now, when paired with AgilePoint interfaces and the extensive set of controls, each featuring built-in validation, this went a long way towards addressing those challenges we mentioned earlier. So with that in mind, I'm happy to unveil a new capability in AgilePoint version 10, where when using Excel as our data source, we can now automatically generate application interfaces using AI, which will prove to even further simplify the application design experience, enabling your teams to spin up durable business applications more quickly and easily than ever before. So before getting started with the demo, let's take a look at the Excel sheet we'll use as the basis for our application. So what I have here is the employee sample data sheet. We've downloaded this from Microsoft. They make this available as part of sample data. And as you're seeing on screen, it captures high-level details about employees. So for example, we have the employee ID, full name, job title, department and business unit, gender, ethnicity, and age, hire date, annual salary, bonus percentage, as well as country and city, and in some cases have the exit date populated. Now prior to this demo, what I have done is I've hosted this here in SharePoint, but feel free to host this in any number of the supported document repositories that come out of the box with AgilePoint. And now that we have an understanding of the sheet and how it's hosted, let's go ahead and start building. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Moving into the app builder, AgilePoint is asking me the type of app I'd like to build. For the sake of time, I'm going to go with a form-based application, though everything you're about to see will also apply to a process. So first, let's give our application a name. And after providing the name, we'll drop it into a category. So here, AgilePoint is asking if I'd like to create a widget form, which it mentions is not typical. So as a result, let's leave not required selected. And here you're seeing AgilePoint is asking me how I'd like to use AI to create my form. Now you've probably seen a number of examples previously where we provide PDFs or images to auto-generate things like process models and forms. But for today, as we mentioned, we want to auto-generate the form based on an Excel data source. But if any of these other sources apply to you, please do view the corresponding video. So next, I need to point AgilePoint towards that SharePoint library that we've just shown you. So we'll select SharePoint. Okay, so I've specified how I'm connecting to SharePoint, the location of the sheet, and we'll select it. And as a next step, give our data source a name. And lastly here, you're seeing I've selected the employee table that we've just walked through. Okay, so let's move over to the Fields tab here. And as we mentioned earlier, Excel really does have very limited formatting options. So this is where I have an opportunity to fine-tune or make enhancements to the data type. Now, in scrolling through the list here, you'll see that AgilePoint has done a great job of interpreting the column options available in Excel and bringing that over into AgilePoint. So for now, we'll go ahead and click Next. So as a next step, I have an interface where I can further make enhancements. Though Excel does have limited data type options, I can always select different AgilePoint controls, each of which has their own built-in validation. In addition, I can always select the order these columns will display on the form or mark a given field as required. So as an example here, you're seeing gender has been suggested as a type of text box. Now I can always change this to a drop-down list, and in so doing, you'll notice that a gear icon becomes available. So in clicking that gear icon, I'm configuring the values of this drop-down list, and as you're seeing, AgilePoint says you already have a pick list called gender. Should we reuse that? So here we can always leverage existing pick lists, or as you're seeing, I can generate fresh values with generative AI. Scrolling further, we'll see things like salary. Now here, that's suggested as a type of number box, but as we all know, AgilePoint has a currency control, which deals with currency. And again, down below, you're seeing here, we have country, which we can always reclassify to a drop-down list. And again, I can always reuse an existing pick list or have fresh values created. Okay, so having reclassified the field types to drive additional validation, you might have seen in other videos where we auto-generate interfaces based on external data, we have the option to apply our preferred layout. So bringing that over, you'll see here I have a very simple 2-column layout. So we go back into AgilePoint, we can upload that from my local machine. And what you're going to see here is that AgilePoint understands that layout using a computer vision model will essentially match the display names shown on my layout to the AgilePoint data structure and arrange things accordingly. Okay, so my layout has been applied. Now you'll notice there are 2 fields that have moved down towards the bottom. Now the reason behind that is those fields were not present in my sample layout, as you're seeing here. So I have the option to either omit those and remove them from my form or rearrange them as required. But in showing line breaks here, we're going to see that that 2-column layout has been precisely applied to my newly generated application interface. Okay, so with my field types reclassified and my layout applied, we're ready to click next. Now here I can add additional artifacts to my application. I can always add those later, so we'll skip that for now, and go with the default application security. Okay, so you're seeing here, all of the application elements have been created automatically. A new form to add new employees to our table, an update form to modify existing records, and a view of all of those employees. Okay, so now we're dropped into the application designer. As you can see here, all of these fields are now data bound to my external Excel source. And let's just go ahead and bring this up in preview to validate things like our drop-down lists having been populated. Okay, so our countries are coming across just fine. Salary is now showing as a currency field, which means everything is good to go. So from here, I can save and check it in. We can publish it. You're seeing here the default view. And now we can launch our application. Okay, so as a final step, let's validate our application is working correctly. So as you're seeing here, we'll take the top employee record and make a modification. Okay, so let's go in here and change the age of this employee to 39, and maybe the department. Okay, so let's quickly just check by viewing that employee's record. Okay, so you can see here the age has been changed as well as the department. And as a final step, we'll go into the source to validate the same. Okay, department is now sales, age is now 39, so we're all good to go. Okay, thank you everyone. That's going to conclude the content for this video. I hope this gives you a better understanding of how quickly your teams can create durable, enterprise-grade business applications that overcome a number of the traditional challenges associated with using Excel. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.